Hi there, welcome to my channel. I'm Holly and this channel is all about my exploration of the world of graphic novels, sci-fi, and fantasy. So I've been reading Kingdom Come, which is a story that is divided into 4 books. I will be talking about book 4 today, and I will link the videos to books 1 through 3 for you. Well, I'm done with it, and I am so sad that I am. This was a wonderful story, and I really did feel melancholy when I finished it. I could have used 2 or 3 more books, to be honest. So I have been using a car analogy. Well, actually, it's more of a driving analogy with Mark Waid in the driver's seat. And in book 3, he drove us right off the cliff. And so I was wondering with book 4, are we going to crash and burn, or will we be saved by some miraculous event? Let's find out. So book 4 takes place almost entirely at the Gulag, which Captain Marvel has essentially destroyed. Now, they've been calling this event at the Gulag a riot amongst the metahuman captives, but in all reality, it is turning into an epic battle between the captives and the Justice League. Now, of course, the Justice League are trying valiantly to contain and control this situation, but to be honest, they are getting as good as they're giving, and at this point, I really thought that this whole thing was going to pop off, that it was just going to erupt into an all-out war going way beyond the boundaries of the Gulag in Kansas. And of course, as always, we have our lovely Norman McKay. I just love him. And the Spectre bearing witness to these events. And Norman is saying, hey, look, what used to be my dreams is now our reality. Do something. This is happening right in front of us. Isn't this the whole reason you're here? Whatever your plan is, it needs to be implemented pronto. And the Spectre responds and says, not yet. The time is not right. But judgment is coming to all, so you better get ready, Norman McKay. Oh my word, those are not super comforting words. I probably would have been running for the hills, even though logically I would know that there is no escaping what's about to come down. And poor, naive Norman, he is stunned. He cannot believe that the Spectre is not going to do something to try to save the world. He really thinks that's why he's here. And, you know, I have just not ever trusted the Spectre. We still don't know what his purpose is, but I have a feeling that it's not fabulous. And you know who else is stunned? Well, that's Superman. Now, he's just astounded that the world is completely out of control. And you know, it's because of his crummy decisions that the world has been brought to the state that it's in. And I am so happy that Superman is finally beginning to realize that. And at this point, he and Captain Marvel are locked in their own battle. And Captain Marvel is as powerful as Superman is. And I discovered that those two were really close allies back in the day until Lex Luthor gets his grubby little hands on Billy Batson and turns him into a soldier of chaos, which I love that term. That would make a great band name. Anyway, since Superman and Captain Marvel are kind of evenly matched, you know that Superman is not going to be able to get the upper hand, and there is going to have to be another way that this whole situation gets resolved. And so cue up an emergency session of the UN where the Secretary General is about to reveal a very harebrained idea. But before we learn what that is, if you enjoyed this content, I ask that you take a moment to subscribe, hit the like button, share, and stick around for the rest of the video. So, the Secretary General is giving this impassioned plea to the other members, hoping to garner support for his plan to stop the war and eradicate the superhumans. Yes, You've got that right. He is going for the nuclear option. He wants to detonate a nuclear device on top of the gulag and wipe out all of the superhumans. Well, of course, logically thinking, that's going to cause a mass casualty event in the human population as well. So, he seems to be okay with that. Not a problem to him because he argues, yes, that's probably going to happen, but at least we will still have the possibility of a future for mankind. So, I see he's going with the ends justify the means rationale. We have to break a few eggs to make an omelet. This is insanity as far as I'm concerned. He is having a knee-jerk reaction to his own fear and panic. Two qualities that I think most of us would not normally look for in one of our leaders. All right, so meanwhile, back at the Gulag, Batman and his allies have arrived. Thank goodness. You know, I had been so concerned about Batman in books 2 and 3, but I just knew that somehow he would come through and at least give it the old college try. Now, he is probably thinking, man, if we had just arrived 5 minutes earlier, because Diana has set off a powder keg by eliminating one of the metahumans. And, oh gosh, that ticks off Bruce. And Bruce and Diana just square off. Now, at first, they are just verbally attacking each other's philosophies. And I have to tell you, this was kind of a hilarious part of the story to me, because you see them fending off the metahuman captives that are attacking them while they are screaming at each other. And it reminded me of bickering siblings who know just which buttons to push. And boy, Bruce knows which ones to push with Diana. He really hits a nerve when he says, I hear that you've been stripped of all of your duties and heritage because you haven't been militant enough. And I don't think this little act of naked aggression is going to get all of that back for you. Oh my gosh, that is all it took. All of a sudden, they are up in the air getting ready for a physical altercation. But then they see 3 military aircraft approaching, and they know what that means. And Superman hears all of this, and he scans the planes with his X-ray vision and sees the load. And he quickly calculates how many seconds they have before impact. And during all of this chaos is when the Spectre decides to pop in and say, the time is now. Okay, finally we're going to find out what his purpose is. And he tells Norman, I am here to punish the evildoers. Of course he is. He couldn't possibly do something wonderful like try to save the world, now could he? And he says that judgment has to take place first before his punishment can begin. And then in the worst case possible scenario for Norman McKay, the Spectre informs him that he's the one who's going to pass judgment. He's the one who's going to decide who has to face the ultimate penalty. Will it be the metahumans or will it be the humans? And of course, poor Norman is saying, me, how can I possibly judge? I look around and all I see is tremendous tragedy. I don't see evil. Well, I have to tell you, Norman McKay has a lot more compassion than I do. I agree, I also see tremendous tragedy, but it's been brought on by tremendous evil. And I have to say, I see evil enough to go around on both sides. And so I think this is a rather tough choice. First of all, you've got the metahumans who rule with an iron fist, who enforce order through some very inhumane and cruel means. And in another video, I said they have all the bad stick words. They are nihilistic, narcissistic, sadistic. They do not value life, either human or superhuman. But you know what? Do the humans in this story fare much better? they're willing to drop a nuclear device on the gulag and wipe out all of the metahumans, plus who knows how many humans. And you know, it was the humans who actually wanted this new breed of superhero in the first place. They kind of wanted the brutality. They didn't necessarily agree anymore with Superman's ideals and such. And so, you know, they're just marching happily to their own destruction. They don't particularly value life either, human or superhuman. So while the Spectre is pressing Norman to make his decision, Superman is having a heart-to-heart with Billy Batson, and he tells him, look, a nuclear device is about to detonate. Now I know I can go prevent it, but should I? Because every choice I've made up to this point has been wrong. Billy, you're of both worlds, human and superhuman. The choice has to be yours to make. And with that, Superman flies up to intercept the aircraft, but Captain Marvel's right after him. He grabs him, slings him to the ground, and then he flies up to intercept the aircraft, and he flies it up as far as he can before detonation. But when it happens, it gravely impacts the gulag. You have massive metahuman loss of life, but you know his action actually saved every single human who could have possibly been impacted by it. And so this is not anything I saw coming. This was a very big surprise to me. It turns out that it's Billy Batson who kind of was the judge. He made the choice, and he chose life for both the metahumans and the superhumans. I do have to say, I'm not sure I said it, but some of the metahumans did survive. And so he did choose all of that, and he sacrificed his own life for doing it. And that really brought a tear to my eye. And I thought, Lex Luthor, you lose. Your plan did get foiled. You lost your unholy grip on Billy Batson when he made that wonderful decision. Unfortunately, it's such a dreadful cost to poor Billy. All right, so now we're back to the Spectre, who says, judgment's been passed, my job here is done. And Norman grows a spine and says, no, it's not by a long shot. We've just seen a very enraged Superman flying to the UN, and we know what's about to happen. And if you don't try to put a stop to it, then that is evil. And the Spectre's response is like, oh, okay, fine, let's go. And so they head to the building where Superman is in fact getting ready to bring down the whole thing on top of everybody inside. And it's Norman McKay who talks him down. You know, I don't think Bruce could have done it. I don't think Diana could have convinced Superman. It had to be Norman McKay. And he gives this beautiful, almost sermon-like speech to Superman. And he just asks Superman, just let go of the super side of you and let the human side take over and make this next decision. And Norman was convincing. You know, he must have made a wonderful preacher, because he did in fact help Superman make a lovely decision, which was he chose life and peace over death and destruction. And then he gives this wonderful message of hope to everyone. Yes, we're going to face challenges in the future, but we're going to solve them together, human and superhuman. And we will no longer rule over you as gods, but we're going to live among you. And guys, that is essentially the end of the story. And it was just so beautiful. I think it is just an incredible story, and I'm sure I'm going to read this again and again. And the thing is, there are so many themes running through this story, as in other graphic novels. And I plan for my next video to start really taking a deep dive into some of these themes. So I have been ranking the graphic novels that I've read so far in order, of course, of what's my favorite. And shockingly, to me, what has been my number one since the beginning of my journey in all of this has been toppled. So anyway, in third place is Green Lantern Secret Origin. In second place, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, is Batman the Killing Joke. And in first place, of course, is the epic Kingdom Come. All right, guys, I'm out of here, but please stay tuned. I'll be right back.